Imagine adopting a 6-year-old child. And as the days go by, you start to suspect she's not really a child. She talks like an adult, behaves like an adult, and maybe she is an adult. This is the bizarre, confusing, and deeply disturbing story that inspired the series Good American Family. But what you're about to hear goes far beyond fiction, because the real case of Natalia Grace is filled with lies, fear, abandonment. And to this day, no one knows the full truth. Was she an innocent little girl, or a grown woman pretending to be a child, trying to deceive an entire family? The answer might send chills down your spine. In 2010, Christine and Michael Barnett adopted a Ukrainian girl who, according to official documents, was 6 years old. Her name was Natalia Grace, and she had a rare form of dwarfism that made her body appear much smaller and younger than her actual age. But something about her started to unsettle the couple. Christine said that Natalia spoke like an adult, didn't enjoy playing with other children, and didn't act like a kid at all. She also claimed that Natalia began menstruating shortly after being adopted, had pubic hair, and already had permanent teeth. The couple became even more suspicious when Natalia allegedly refused to reveal her real age during direct conversations. And there was another problem. The adoption documents themselves were confusing. The paperwork from Ukraine contained missing information, mismatched dates, and inconsistent records about Natalia's birth. That lack of clarity in the official records only made the Barnetts more afraid that they were being deceived. To them, it all started to feel like a scam, and they began to suspect that Natalia wasn't a child, but a grown woman in disguise. What started as suspicion quickly turned into fear. The Barnetts claimed that Natalia began behaving in threatening ways. She allegedly tried to push Christine into an electric fence, threw heavy objects at her adopted siblings, and even poured bleach into her mother's coffee. Michael said she would stand silently next to their bed at night, just watching them sleep. She also reportedly said things like, "I want to kill all of you," and "I want to bury you in the backyard." Terrified, the couple started locking their bedroom door at night and hiding knives around the house. They claimed they sought medical and psychological help, but the results were inconsistent. Some professionals believed she was a traumatized child. Others said she might actually be a mentally unstable adult. That uncertainty pushed the Barnetts to take an extreme step. They went to court to legally change Natalia's age. In 2012, the Barnetts submitted medical reports that they claimed proved Natalia was an adult. Based on that, they received legal approval to change her birth certificate from 2003 to 1989. That meant she officially went from being 8 years old to 22. Shortly afterward, the Barnetts rented an apartment for her to live alone, and they moved to Canada with their biological children, leaving Natalia behind in the United States. Alone, with no supervision, no medical help, and mobility challenges, Natalia was seen by neighbors wearing dirty clothes and asking for help. Local residents stepped in, but because she was legally an adult, she didn't qualify for government assistance. The case resurfaced in 2019 when Natalia was taken in by a new family who reported what the Barnetts had done. Michael and Christine Barnett were formally charged with neglect of a dependent, but even with medical evaluations and new testimony, the case turned into complete chaos. Some experts said Natalia showed physical signs of being a young adult. Others insisted she had the clear traits of a child at the time she was abandoned. One of the most recent reports, from 2020, stated she was born in 2003, which would mean she was only 8 years old when she was left to live alone. During the trial, it became clear that Natalia's age had been changed without any legal guardian or lawyer representing her. And doctors who had evaluated Natalia back then testified that they had never definitively confirmed she was an adult, contradicting the core of the Barnetts' defense. Despite all the doubts, Michael Barnett was acquitted of the neglect charges. The court accepted the defense's argument that, at the time Natalia was left alone, she was legally an adult due to birth certificate change in 2012. Christine Barnett's case never even went to trial. It was dismissed early on, with the court citing lack of sufficient evidence. And again, because Natalia was legally considered an adult, the charge of neglect lost its legal weight. In the end, even with conflicting medical reports, emotional testimony, and a case that divided the public, the court was never able to definitively determine Natalia Grace's true age. Natalia was later adopted by Cynthia and Antoine Mans, a couple who initially claimed she was innocent and had been abused. They said she behaved like a child, cried at night, and sought affection. They insisted they never saw any of the violent behaviors the Barnetts had described. But over time, that relationship also began to break down. Cynthia began reporting that Natalia was causing conflict in the home, making false accusations, manipulating situations, and displaying disturbing behavior. Once again, Natalia was removed from her adoptive family. Today, she lives with Vince and Nicole DePaul, who are doing their best to keep her life private and out of the spotlight, especially after the media storm following the release of Good American Family. So, what really happened to Natalia Grace? Was she an adult pretending to be a child? Or a helpless girl who was wrongfully accused and abandoned by the very people who were supposed to protect her? Good American Family dramatizes this story, but the real events behind it are something far more disturbing. The truth may be darker and more confusing than any fiction.